Welcome to episode 107. I am so excited to do this episode because I've turned to the community and I said, hey, what are some of the things that you struggle with podcasting? What are some of the common things that stop you from podcasting? Why do you fall off? What are some of the things that you self-sabotage? What are some of the stuff that is like overwhelming to you? And we're going to talk about that in this podcast because it's going to solve a lot of your problems. Let's go. I've been obsessed my entire life with success and how to get to the next level. And because of that, I've created some extraordinary opportunities for myself that have granted me with phenomenal content powers. Okay, maybe not so genie in the lamp type, but I know how to get people to cash in on some of their wishes and turn them into reality. So where do you go to get podcast upgrade opportunities and a bunch of phenomenal cosmic powers for your life and your business? Well, you found the podcast in the rough, so let's dig in. All right, welcome back to the Podcast in the Rough. I'm your host, Zebulon Thomas, and I'm hoping to get through this without major editing like last week. I had a lot of editing on this, which we talked about that. And also last week, we talked about getting started and all the cool tech that you can use to get your podcast up and running. And just to kind of like highlight a little bit on last week's episode, if you haven't tuned in, that's episode 106. What I like about that episode is I went into some detail and got deep with a lot of things to kind of just even outside of podcasting, things to really help your mental state and things to think about when you're building your empire here, when you're building up your podcast so you can start to do cool things. So I turned to social media and I started asking people, what are some of the things that you struggle with podcast? I turned to several groups and I asked them inside the groups, I said, hey, what are some of the things that stop you from podcasting? What are some of that are very successful? Why do you stop? I know a few podcasters in my personal circle that have done podcasting for a good bit of time and then they just stop doing it one day. And it's like, why? This is one of the things that we're going to talk about here with all these common things that people share with me on social media of why they get stuck or why they stop. And right now we're going to talk about it. Self-doubt, right? Self-doubt, believing in yourself, right? Because at the beginning, you're probably like, man, I don't know if I could do this, right? I don't believe in what I'm saying because maybe I'm not good enough for this stuff, right? Or why would they listen to me because I just started doing this? You got to pick a lane. You got to run that, right? You got to run it. And I want to say this about self-doubt. I hope you take this in because this right here, out of everything I feel that I talk about today, is going to get you over that procrastination, that hump, whatever it is you're stuck at, maybe in all aspects of your life. I want you to look out in the world today, maybe on social media, or go to YouTube and ask yourself, what the heck am I doing in my life right now? What am I doing? If you get scared and shooken up over that, if you get a little choked up or get a little anxiety over that question, then go to this next question. If I don't start doing the stuff that I want to do in my life, if I don't make things a must and get off my butt and chase the adventure, tell yourself this, I'm going to miss out on all this cool stuff in life. I'm not going to be able to participate in that. I'll never know what that's like. That's scary to me. I get up every day and I look out in the world and I'm inspired to do cool stuff. And I want to say this to you right now because it's so important to know that if you don't start making things a must in your life and living life on your terms and stop living on other people's terms and what other people want for you or what a job says you have to do, if that is consuming you to where you don't have the time to do anything, you need to really kick the must in action and go, I must get this off the ground. I must go chase my dreams. I must go do this. And you must jump into that free fall. It will work out for you, but you have to trust in this process. Because at the very beginning, sometimes we don't believe in anything. We're just like, but I'm going to take this leap. I have to trust. And trust in that. So this goes full force, not just with a podcast. This is in life in general. Your job, your income, your family, the relationships, the things you do, your activities, the moments, the experiences of life and joy. And what do you want it to be about? When is the last time someone looked at you and said, what do you want your life to be about? Instead of what are you going to do for a living? What are you going to do when you get older? Or what are you going to do next year? Or what are you going to do for a job? Or how about what do you want your life to be about? What type of person do you want to become? Let's talk about these things about the podcast that I feel is so important. I went a little longer than I wanted to on that little riff, but I felt like you needed it. You needed to hear this because this, the Podcast in the Rough is not just about everything podcasting and stuff like that. It's about special guests and life moments and a journey that I want to take you on, the experience that I want you to experience. And I want to solve some problems along the way because I look at this podcast. This is how I shape my podcast. Something to think about for yours. I want to take you on a journey. I want to create an experience for you. And if you think about a journey, let's go back to maybe when we were kids and we went through the woods or we went on a hike or we climbed a mountain or whatever it is in your life that you did. Or, the greatest movies, like if you go way back, right? Like the Goonies, right? There's a journey. There's an adventure. They don't start off with solving problems that don't exist yet. They go on this journey. They go, wait. They're excited. They're intrigued. They start to engage and they run crazy towards fear and adventure in the unknown. That's what I'm asking you to do with the podcast. Run towards the unknown. Take your audience to the unknown. And as I create this experience for you, through the theme and that's created through your energy, the intro that you've created, get creative with your writing and the graphics and maybe those things, that's kind of gives you through a visual audio experience, but also what you talk about leading into something. Like today, I want to talk about the common things that everyone has wrote back to me about that they get stuck with and struggle on and they're waiting for this episode. But I want to put a little something at the beginning to get you to really just get into the gap before we talk about these things because these are so important. I want to take you on a journey. And along the way of this journey, we start experiencing really cool things that scare the heck out of us, things that excite us, problems, and we solve them real quick. You got to be a quick, critical thinker. You got to solve problems really fast in life, especially right now. And if you could do those and you're already doing them, you could do that on a podcast. The problem is a lot of people get burnt out. That's one of the things. We're going to talk about that. So right now, we're talking about self-doubt. I'm going to fly through these. Because I don't want to spend a lot of time on the things that'll get you stuck. I want to spend time on the solution. Spend more time on solving the problem than you do the problem itself. So that's what we're going to talk about. Self-doubt. Listen, you got this. Done. I wish it was that simple. No, self-doubt is overthinking what you're doing, right? Overthinking this whole thing, the setup, the process, everything. I've made things so simple in all these episodes leading up to this episode that there should be no reason why you don't pick up your phone and just start a podcast because there's no equipment needed. Everyone's like, oh, you need all this stuff. You need cameras. No, you just need to start speaking to this platform and put it out there. So I made it super easy. So there you go. Self-doubt, don't overthink. Just go forward. Just go forward. Think about it. You're on the edge of a mountain and there's a tightrope and you're going to walk it and you're scared as heck of heights. Why you don't take that step forward is because you're overthinking it and you're thinking too much into the future of what if and how things could end instead of going, what if I just take this first step and enjoy that moment of standing in this moment? I know you're probably thinking, no way. Just thinking about it freaks me out. I'm not stepping forward. In fact, I'm having anxiety. No. Center yourself. Take the step. Enjoy that moment. Take the next step. One step. You could take one step. My friend cycled around the entire United States. And I asked him, how did you do it? How did you ride a bike all around the United States? First of all, very quickly too, but how did you just keep going? And he says, I told myself I could do one more mile. And you know how many miles it took him to ride around the United States? And how he got to that finish line per se was he was so determined to hit the goal that when he got tired, he just said, I could do one more mile. Let's do one more mile. So I'm telling you, let's just take that first step. Let's do one more step after that. Let's do one episode. Let's do one more after that. I could do one more, right? Let me do 5-minute episodes. Let me do 10. Let's take that step. You can do it. You got one more mile. You do one more mile. You could do that. And then after 1 mile becomes 2 miles, and then you've done 10 miles and 20, and then you've been all over the U.S., right? You do one podcast, do another. Next thing you know, you got a whole season down. You got episode after episode. You've committed. You have this time, and it's amazing, and you have the community, and it's just working for you, okay? So believe in yourself. Don't have self-doubt. All right, listen, inexperience. Everything that I've done in my life, I never had experience until I experienced it. Does that make sense? Like, I just said, hey, I want to do this. I didn't go and say, hey, I've been doing this for a while. I've been forced to cut the grass. I'm going to become an expert on grass cutting, right? No. I don't sit there and go, oh, I've done this for a while. I think I could do something about that. Yeah, sometimes that happens where you're just like, hey, I have kind of been doing this in my career, and all of a sudden this is like a part of it that I could chunk out and say I could talk to you about audio engineering, right? Things like that, right? No. Back in the day, even when I wanted to do music or I wanted to do videos or whatever I started at, I just picked something up. I said, look at this camera. I bet I can create something cool with this. No experience needed. Creativity is what you need. You don't need experience. You don't need a degree. You don't need any of this, anybody to justify that you're good enough to do this or not good enough to do it. You don't need experience. You know where you get the experience? By stepping forward, being creative, and then you go, hey, I've been doing this for a while. I got some experience with that. If you do one podcast episode and then you edit it and upload it, guess what? You now can tell your friend who has no experience, has never done this, and you encourage them to do a podcast, I got experience with this. It doesn't matter the level of experience you have. It just means that you now can help someone take that first step. Take the step and don't worry about being inexperienced. So that's a big thing that a lot of you wrote to me saying, experience. I don't have the experience. How do I edit? You know what you do? You do it. You look on YouTube if you have to. You go to this podcast in the rough and you check out the episode. You jump inside the group and you ask the question. And I say, hey, audio editing? Oh my goodness. I got probably like 26 years of audio editing under my belt, right? So I can definitely help you there. So that's what the group's for. That's what this podcast is for. Ask the question. Okay. All right. If you would like to join the podcast community mastermind group, head over to thepodcastintherough.com/learn. It's absolutely free. Inside this group, I'm geeking out with you about the setup and sound quality of your podcast. Everything that you need to make your voice sound amazing. Head over to thepodcastintherough.com/learn and get involved in the podcast community mastermind group. It's absolutely free. I look forward to seeing you inside the group. Next one, equipment. We've already talked about this in the episodes before. Go back and listen to them, but I'm just going to say this. Listen, you don't need all the lavish equipment. You don't have to have my setup or Joe Rogan's setup, right? You just need to be able to speak into something and your voice goes out. Don't worry about the quality. And now today's quality is so good on so many levels, you're not going to have bad quality. If you have bad quality, it's almost like when people take pictures of UFOs and they don't have good camera. It's like, really? We're in 2023. You don't have a good camera? Seriously? What's going on there? I don't believe this. Come on, right? You're not going to have crappy audio, right? Let me explain to you what's the worst things that are going to happen in your audio. You're going to have a lot of reverb because you're maybe not soundproof. Who cares, right? The new iPhones or new phones, they have a lot of those limiters built into it, so you're going to be fine. Maybe your audio is just a little tin can-ish because you added so many effects you didn't know how to apply them, and you did that. Maybe don't do that. Just put it up raw. Grab your phone, speak into it, put it on the platform. You don't need all this stuff. Or yes, go get a microphone. They're very inexpensive. Most of the microphones, even the cheap ones, will still deliver really good audio for you. Go in your car, make it a sound booth, right? Your car is a great installation for sound. Do that, done. Equipment, you don't need it. Just jump in. And then you can geek out over the equipment and jump in the group and we'll talk about it. Technology, the tools and technology of podcasting. Like a lot of people are asking this, like, hey, I'm not a tech person. Podcasting seems a little crazy and complicated. How do I get over the gap? It's not hard. Listen, there is so many things. You're probably thinking, oh my gosh, I have to do the podcast. I have to edit the podcast. I have to know about all these tools and things that go all over the audio, right? You don't even know the terminology. You're like, oh, whatever that stuff is they put on the audio to make it sound good, right? Then I have this thing called exporting, and how do I upload? I've uploaded before. I could do that. Your brain is racing. And then someone goes, hey, did you know you got to do transcripts? You don't have to do transcripts. You can. Someone comes and be like, you should be doing video podcasts. And then you're like, camera editing, I got lighting. Oh my gosh, now this is too much. You don't need to worry about the setup, the tech, all that stuff. It's not that hard. When you upload your audio, even if in the worst case scenario, upload it to the platform, they already have, just like YouTube, when you upload a video, it compresses it, it fits it to meet their guidelines of what they need, and it does what it needs to do. So you can totally do this amateur. You can amateur your way into it. It's okay. So don't worry about the tech. The tech is not too crazy. It's really not. Okay, next, the big thing. We've been wanting to get to this point. I've been talking about the podcast, monetization, okay? Monetization. How do I make money at my podcast? At the very beginning, yes, you might be thinking, man, this could be a full-time job. Listen, don't think about the monetization. Do the podcast, create the buzz, solve the problems, build the community, speak to your audience, engage. And when all those things are flowing and functional, and you're like, hey, I got people asking me questions, they're saying thank you, or they're saying you didn't talk enough on this. Even if it's bad stuff, it's still engagement. They're engaging. And I'm on my 100th or 200th episode because I did one every single day. They started at 2 minutes. Now they're 10, 25 minutes, 40 minutes long. Maybe you had the first one was 2 hours long and you cut it down. Now you're not so winded in. So now your podcasts are actually to the point. They hammer out detailed information and solve problems. Now you can start thinking about monetization. I will do a full episode on monetization because there is so many ways to monetize. Let me just say this, and then we'll move on. You don't have to rely on the platform to pay you money from ads. Stop doing that. Stop thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to make YouTube videos and I have to hit 1,000 subscribers to get subscribed so I can hit the monetization goal so I can actually be monetizing my content. Oh no, right? You can make your money around this stuff. There's ways to monetize, and we're going to go heavy into that because you don't even need to have a big following to make money on your podcast. So we're going to talk about that. All right, next one. All right, here's a big one. How do you get creative creating content? So many people ask me, it's like, Zebulon, how do you do it? Listen, if you spend time with me, you might find out that, man, I do my podcast on Thursday and release it Friday, every Friday, right? That's the goal. That's what I do. And I try to get ahead of it so I don't have any excuses not to release one. I have some backed up in case I, for some reason, am really busy. Like next week's a super busy week for me. I'm doing 2 podcasts today for next week, preloading it. How do you get creative? Listen, a lot of times I'm out in life just doing things and I get inspired. I'm like, I want to talk about it. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, the podcast is due tomorrow and it's today and I have to like edit today. I have to record it. And if I get in the funk of like, oh my gosh, I got to deliver, instead of just letting it flow to me, like, well, you just turn and go, what are some of the things people want help with? What do they need help with? What are they talking about? Look at my groups, look at my community, look at other people's groups and community, go online. What is something you personally struggle with, right? So a couple weeks ago, and I think it was episode, I want to say 103, I was talking about this EQ. I was struggling with, I wanted to sound my audio to sound really good in the car and on the podcast. And I figured, well, I just had so much bass in my voice. What do I got to do? So I reached out to a bunch of people and geeked out on EQs. And next thing I know, that was the episode. I'm like, I want to talk about it. If you're lacking creativity, go to the internet, find out what people want in your niche or what your podcast is about in that genre and what they're looking for and how to solve a problem. Solve a problem. Talk about solving that problem or talk about the problem. Even if you don't have the answer to it and you don't have an episode, maybe you could talk about the problem and ask them, hey, what do you think is the best solution for this? I would love to know. And then talk about how you struggle from that same problem. Like, oh man, I don't know which mixer to buy. So many mixers. And then you start talking about the mixers and you just give detailed information about the mixers. Listen, I'm being creative right now. It's an episode. I could go on there and find all the cool mixers that I think are cool and be like completely confused and then talk about the breakdown by pulling them off the website and reading all the stats of each mixer and some of the reviews people are saying. Like, all right, guys, now what do you think? What do you think I should get? What would you do? What's the answer here, right? So you're not solving the problem, but you're talking about it in a way of like educating others on what these mixers do. And then you give your opinion. Well, from not trying these out, I think I'm going to give you an opinion and help you with the selection. Now you're solving a problem. You're giving your opinion. You don't have 100% expertise in, you don't have the experience in this, could maybe even try the mixer, but you're looking at it online, you're reading the stats because they've spent mad money. Companies spend a lot of money to get the details of their products and services written to a point where it's so well received by you and it gets to the point. It tells you exactly what that product or service is able to do or provide for you. So when you're reading that, you don't have to own it. You could be like, you know what? The Rodecaster Pro, it does this, 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 and this. My opinion against the Zoom PodTrack P4. Looking at it, I think the Rodecaster delivers so much more value and quality to it. I think that's the one you should go with. But financially, maybe it's out of your bracket. So then you point out your opinion of like, well, financially, if you're struggling and you don't want to put a lot of money into your podcast, I would go with the Zoom PodTrack P4 because it looks like it's mobile. It's got a lot of the basic features. I'm sure it delivers just as well. And guess what? It does. I can contest to that. I've done several episodes on this Zoom PodTrack P4, and I'm doing right now on the Rodecaster Pro. They sound amazing no matter which one you use. It's all on how you want to use it and what you need for your setup. One's expensive and one's inexpensive. Which one you want to go with? And that's the whole point of the Podcast on Rough is saving you time and money when you jump into podcasting. The past couple episodes, I've really nipped it down to the point where you can, again, start with a phone. And like, if I knew all this information at the very beginning, I wouldn't have spent so much money on my podcast setup because it's not about the setup. It's about how creative you can get with your mind. So the content is not hard if you just talk about what you want to talk about in the podcast. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, staying motivated. That's another big question people have asked me is how do I stay motivated? It's the same thing. You talk about something that you want to express on the podcast and that motivates you to get into it, or a subject or solving a problem. You want to talk about it. That motivates you, right? How do you go to work every day to the job you don't like? How do you get motivated to go to the job? What do you say? Well, I got to pay my bills. That's your motivation. Get your butt out there and go give the money back to whatever to feed your lifestyle that you have. Okay. And if you want a better lifestyle, you got to go get a better job and make more money and change the things in your lifestyle because now you got to move up. That's fine. Definitely move up. So how do you create a podcast? How do you get motivated through a podcast? You get excited about the journey, the adventure, the unknown. You're about to do something different that you're not used to. And we're going to do this. That's awesome. So there you go. How do you get motivated? Self-motivated, staying motivated. Okay, let's talk about that. You've done 200 episodes. You're getting a little burned out. You're getting burned out because what you went into this to get is not giving you that. And so you're like, what's the point? This is also a big thing why a lot of people in my area, my close circle, some have fallen off already. How did you do that? How did you just abandon your viewers, your listeners, your podcast? I don't have the time. You had the time. You stopped making the time for that. You got unmotivated because it wasn't giving you the results that you wanted because you set the standards differently. It's not about setting the goal too high. You can say, hey, I'm going to be the best podcast in the world. That's a goal, and it's not about hitting the goal. It's about the journey to get to the goal, but you hopefully never do hit it because when you hit it, you probably didn't plan for the next goal after that. Trust me, I've hit my life goal twice, and it's very crazy when you do because you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't think I was going to hit that quick. I didn't think I was going to hit it at all, right? I didn't set up another goal. How do you think higher than the highest? That's why you got to change your perspective and go, hey, I'm here to say that to you. I'm here to tell you, change your perspective of the goal. Go, you know what? My goal is to be the best of the best. But in the process is to enjoy the whole process and keep enjoying that process. So then it's not about the goal anymore. So again, staying motivated, creating a podcast, you get burnout. It's because you're expecting this to be monetized after so long. You're expecting the community to rant and rave over you and to share like crazy. And maybe that will happen, but maybe it won't. After 300-400 episodes, after season 2, whatever. It's about being here and going, you know what? Some people are getting value from this, or I enjoy this process, or you know what? I'm going to take the next 2 years and I'm going to do a podcast every single day to develop my voice and who I am as a host, to develop my skill set, to understand how to become the best at this and write and all the process of creativity and writing and video and editing and sound design and marketing and graphics and you name it. You just go down that rabbit hole and you just, oh, this is great. That's motivating. So there's your motivation. Okay, this is a big one. I'm scrolling through my phone, by the way, because I screenshot all the comments. Okay, obstacles. The things that get in our way, the obstacles. How do you overcome the obstacles? Well, what are the obstacles? I guess that's the question. A lot of people are saying obstacles, and they had all different reasonings, but no one really pinpointed what the obstacle was. It was just like obstacles. Well, like how do you drive down the road? How do you go to the store? How do you go on a trip? How do you avoid obstacles there? When they happen, you drive around them, or you back up and take a different road, or you switch gears, or you get out of your vehicle and move the obstacle. You move it, or you plow right through the stuff, right? You just blow right through that roadblock that says the road's dead end or the road's under construction, and then you see where it goes and you pop your tires and you mess up your vehicle. But guess what? When the car breaks down and you got to get out and walk and you end up on the other side of that and you're looking back and you go like, oh, that's why that road wasn't there. That's why they had the signs up. You broke through though. You took a step forward. You did it. You made it. Listen, you're going to get banged up and beat up and trying to get around obstacles. The biggest thing is, what is an obstacle? An obstacle's main purpose, if you will, I guess we call it a purpose, is to stop you or slow you down or to get you to go around or to get you, it's that. You don't stop at an obstacle. It's an obstacle to go around it. Who taught you to stop at an obstacle? Well, it's a rock in the way. Got to turn around, go back home, call it a day. No. How do we climb over this baby? How do we get around it? How do we move it? Man, can we move and see? That's where my mind goes. Like, man, there's a boulder in the way. What if we move this boulder? What if we can get it to roll? That'd be cool. It's going to go mess up some stuff. I'm going to roll it down this hill, all right? Like I want to spend some time with the obstacle. It's like, hey, what are you doing here? Let's talk. Let me see what we can do. Let me move you, buddy. All right? We're going to get down and we're going to move this obstacle. I'll be your obstacle. Now you've met me. You thought you were going to stop people. Guess what? Now you're looking at me. The obstacle's looking at you going, holy cow, I'm in the wrong lane. This person's going to plow right through me, right? Blow through those obstacles. Come on, there's no obstacles. Obstacles are gonna. There's a sign of life. There's a sign of you doing good things. You're gonna get your podcast going. There's gonna be new obstacles. You got to find a way around those things.
When it comes to business development, Empire Dynamics Agency knows that marketing is the most important investment businesses of all sizes can make to ensure the doors stay open. At Empire Dynamics Agency, they are dedicated to helping small and local businesses thrive. If you would like to thrive right now, visit empiredynamicsagency.com.
All right, so the next one was people saying, like, how do you get a podcast to sound good if I don't have the soundproofing? I mean, yes, you want to soundproof your podcast so it sounds good. You don't have reverb. But right now, let me explain this. I should take a picture of this and put it in the group. The microphones are really great at handling the background reverb, but there is a little bit of bounce back. So what I did is I grabbed the couch cushion and I stuck it behind the microphone. Just that alone is just going to be good. So my advice to you, if you don't have soundproofing and you really don't like the reverb and you can't use your car, the car is a great opportunity. But you got to be mobile. I get it. You got wires, whatever. Dude, just grab a bunch of blankets and pillows and wrap them on the bottom part of the microphone and then put a pillow standing up right behind it. So your voice and the sound is just going into the soft cushions, right? And not hitting the walls and bouncing off the ceiling and coming back into the microphone. That's all you got to do. So soundproofing, or just go to Amazon and spend $50-$60 and get like 20-30 sound foam padding and just stick it on the wall. Or hang blankets on the wall, right? It's whatever you want your look to be. No one's going to really see your studio unless you're doing video. And then yes, let's get some quality look. But hey, you know what? Well, maybe your podcast takes off because you have pillows everywhere and blankets. They're like, dude, this person's podcast is so on point and sounds so good. But look they got couch cushions behind their microphones and blankets on the floor. It's weird. Maybe that's the niche. Hey, look you started a podcast. There we go. Lack of consistency. Wow, that's a big one. All right, lack of consistency. This happens a lot. This is why my friends have fallen off their podcasts. They've stopped being creative. They didn't get what they wanted. And they lack consistency because they're not delivering a podcast on a certain schedule all the time. How do you deliver that, Zebulon? How do you get motivated to keep going? How do you do all these things? And then it comes down to like consistency. How do you stay consistent with your podcast? That's simple. Write it out. Go listen, dedicate, commit to this every Friday, every Monday, every Tuesday. What is going to be your thing? Create a process that you're consistent about. Just like, hey, every day you get up and eat breakfast, or maybe every day you get up and work out, or maybe every day you get up and go to the bathroom, whatever. Every day you get up and take a shower. How do you stay consistent with that? Hygiene, Zebulon. I want to stay good. I don't want to smell. I want to be good. I want to be in fit. I want to be shape. I want to eat my breakfast. I need my energy. I need my coffee. How do you stay consistent drinking your coffee every morning, right? If you're drinking coffee every morning, you could do a podcast. It's simple. Stop making things so complicated. All right. Now I want to talk about something else here. Now I want to talk a little bit of statistics, and I want us to blow through those statistics, right? Because you don't have to. This article here is from 2018, so it could be higher, it could be less. But in 2018, they said 174 days is the average show lifespan, meaning you're only going to do 174 episodes or 174 daily podcasts before you decide, you know what, it's not giving me what I want. I'm unmotivated. I can't stay consistent. I'm falling off the bandwagon. This ain't worth it. I got to go back to the job. And then you stop. That's just the average. Listen, let me tell you about the average in statistics, right? It's because a lot of people jump at this not knowing what they're doing, or they had a great idea, but they didn't have the support. They didn't have people with them, right? Maybe the niche wasn't there. You got to find something you really are passionate about, and you go beyond that. And listen, if you fall off in that time frame, pick back up, do another step, get back into it. I took a break from my podcast, came back with a whole new season, the podcast on the rough, revamped and everything. Sometimes the break is important, but let your listeners know what's going on. That's why a Facebook group is so important, or a community, or an email list. Let them know what's going on behind the scenes. Going, hey, you know what? A little burned out, need to take a break. I want to stay active in the community. They're going to support you. Or, hey, you know what? I want to switch it up. I found something else that I love to talk about, and it doesn't fit into the podcast I created it on. I've experienced that too. My podcast at the beginning was very open. It was like everybody was coming in. I was like, man, I got to niche down on this thing, man. But I didn't know what to do. So I was like, I'll just talk about all these things that really helped me in my life. And it worked. It was great. But then I was like, I wanted to niche down and change because I really want to focus on something, geek out over, if you will. So that's the average there. Let's see. There's another statistic here. The statistic states that the biggest reasons why people stop podcasting is because lack of time, lack of resources, or that the podcast gets in their way of their daily activities, their life, their business. That's a no-no. right? That's a different way of thinking. You shouldn't see that way. No, the podcasting is an extension of myself or an extension of my business. It's something that functions and it's free because I could do it for free. It's a great open door and opportunities for a lot of marketing inside of this thing, a lot of getting my message out, my cause out, getting my energy out, and meeting new people, right? So this is as good as socializing, if you will. This is a great opportunity. Don't think that way. Don't look out there and be like, oh, all these things that's going to stop you from podcasting. This should just become a way of your life or a way of your business operations. Maybe there's parts of your life or parts of your business that you don't want to put into this podcast because you know that's for you or that's personal. But sometimes bringing those things into this podcast, mixing it up, helps people relate, helps people understand experiences, and it really boosts everything because you're getting a little more personal, letting them know. You can't always be about business and you can't always be about personal too. Sometimes you got to talk about your beliefs, your ideas. You got to put your opinion out there, talk about business structures, whatever it is in your niche, in your podcast. So that is one of the statistics of why people stop is because of lack of time, lack of resources, and the podcast getting in the way. Shouldn't be like that. Okay, this statistic says that 55% of podcasters believe that the space is oversaturated and there's way too many podcast opinions. That's a big one. Yes. Listen, this industry is very new still. Okay, I mean, it's been around for a long time, but I mean, like, because it's becoming more mainstream, people are doing it more. Hello, wow, look at this new gem. Jump on the bandwagon now. You're going to say this in 5 years. Man, I should have did podcasting 5 years ago. People think it's oversaturated. People are going to come in and listen. There's a majority of people that are going to come into podcasting and they're going to give up and walk away. Remember, after 174 days, their podcast they're going to stop doing it. So if you get past 174 days and you're still podcasting, guess what? There's going to be some room for you. And there's going to be a few newbies coming in. Keep going. Keep running that line. People are going to come in, jump off, fall off, whatever. Some people are going to stay. At the end of the day, at the end of those 174 days, you've got a podcast flow and it's good. Now all of a sudden you become a big podcast. Work that. You got this. Okay, here's another statistic. They're saying that if you have 5,000 listeners per episode, it's almost guaranteed success for monetization. Again, we're talking about the money. You don't have to be stuck behind that. Oh, of course, it'd be great to have 5,000 listeners. Why don't you focus on community first? See what you can build there. 20 members, right, can have a good conversation. We have a heck of a good time. Now, the podcast for me is more about getting the information out there, building a small community. I don't want 50 million bazillion people following this podcast. It would be cool if they did, but it's not my goal. My goal for my podcast is to get a little community going, geek out over some things, talk about it, solve some problems, help other people get their podcast going, be a part of that process, watch them grow, and be able to talk and express myself. That's what this podcast is all about for me. So listen, that's what this episode's all about. I really hope it helped you. Go back and listen to episodes 106, 105, 104, even 103. I think it was the one podcasting in the car, right? On the go. There's more great podcasting episodes to come. I'm taking you on an adventure. I'm taking you on a journey, and we're going to solve some problems along the way. I hope this quick run through, I know I took you for a little bit longer than I usually do. I thought this was going to be a really short podcast. I really did. As I was like, I'm going to run through this baby. It's going to be great. But I really did dump a lot of really good stuff onto you that I feel like you could take back and apply to your life right away. And so I'm proud of this episode because I sat down. This isn't scripted. I just bullet pointed some things, and I asked the community over the week, what was some of the things they were stuck with and struggled. And then I pulled a few stats and I said, hey, this is an episode I want to talk about. I think it's going to be great. I never want to just put something together, but I do want to say this before you wrap up. Don't just put something together, but also don't get stuck behind being too perfect. As you get your podcast going, people want to hear the journey. Talk about it. Hey, I'm using my phone. I don't have any money right now, and I'm using my phone. And then after episode like 100, be like, guys, I made enough money to get a new microphone. And they go, wow. And then they're talking about it. And the next thing you know, you're like, hey, I got this full podcast studio. I bought a building and it's a podcast studio now. I want to invite you as my guest. And they're going to show up. And then as you're getting bigger, oh man, they're on my favorite talk show. Or I seen them on TV, or they hosted the New Year's Bash. I'm just saying, it could happen. And you're just like, guys, you remember where we started? You remember when I only had a phone? You remember where we started? And all I had was this cell phone. And you guys supported me? That's what it's all about. So don't be afraid to show your weaknesses and the things you're struggling with and the things you're dealing with and the audio problems you have, or if you can't get the audio just right, or if you cough or sneeze on the mic and you left it in there, or you slipped up and said something you should have said, oh well, leave it in there, post it up. It's good. It's good. Listen, it's Friday. Go enjoy your Friday. Light yourself up. What are you doing this weekend? Listen, for me, the summer's here, baby. Let's get it going. Let's go. It's party time. And it's also the day that I tell everyone as well, this is your day, man. Take Friday off. Stay away from all the negative Nancy's. Get rid of all the people that stressed you out this weekend. Don't talk to them this weekend. Just, hey, you know what? I'm not picking up the phone for you right now. I'm going in the weekend. This is Friday. This is a day that I'm going to enjoy. Hey, guess what? I'm not coming into work today. I started a podcast. Okay? Listen, don't take my advice there. Don't lose your job. Ease into things or do what I do and take that leap of faith. It's exciting. It's scary as hell, but it's so exciting. And you got to do that, man, because you can't be prepared for everything. And sometimes you find yourself going, hey, we got to jump. We're going to grab something along the way. We're going to get banged up along the way. But you know what? That's how you live life. Ask yourself that question. If I don't make this a must, if I don't do it, how much am I going to miss out on this life? Go live this, man. Do it. Lots of love, guys. Take care.
This is the podcast in the rough.